What's up, Raptors fans? Welcome to the Warriors Report. It is time to talk about Paul Watson. So we saw what Paul Watson did against the Orlando Magic, and that was a performance most of us did not expect. We know Paul Watson, what he's capable of offensively, but what he showcased today was absolutely unreal. So I want to talk about Paul Watson and what his future may be with the Raptors, if the Raptors could develop him into a starter, and if he has all-star potential. So before I get into the details of all of that, I need you to do me a favor. Please just give this video a thumbs up. When you do that, it helps reach a larger YouTube audience. And if you could hit that subscribe button as well, it really helps us channel grow. You get a lot of Raptors content on here you won't see anywhere else. With that being said, everyone, let's jump right into it. So Paul Watson got his first career start, which was a little bit surprising. Not because I doubt his offensive abilities, but more so because Nick Nurse has been giving guys like DeAndre Bembry, Stanley Johnson, those starters minutes and having them start in case players injured or COVID or whatever the reason may be. So I was surprised Paul Watson got that start. Now, obviously, he's definitely paid off. You saw what he did against the Orlando Magic, particularly in that third quarter. You know what? He was just not missing at all. And I was thinking, okay, he's hit a couple of three-pointers. He's going to miss now, but he just kept going at it, and he was torching the Orlando Magic. Now, he actually ended up outscoring the entire Magic team. He had 20 points. The Magic had 19 points in that third quarter. So he had himself an unreal performance. And you know what? You would not think he's on a two-way contract. He looked like an all-star out there the way he was shooting. He just could not miss. And you saw the bench's reaction as well. That was great to see because the guys were having some fun. They were celebrating on that bench. It was great to see Paul Watson do that because he has not been getting really consistent minutes this season with Nick Nurse. Now, Nick Nurse has been definitely shuffling players in and out of the lineup from the bench players to starters. So now, obviously, we've gotten rid of some bench guys. So this kind of opens up spots for guys like Malachi Flynn, Paul Watson. So if the Raptors are to develop him into whether it's a key bench player or starter, we need to give him consistent minutes for once. And that starts with Nick Nurse being more consistent with his bench. We saw what that did for guys like Malachi Flynn. Malachi Flynn has completely turned his entire season around. And you know what? It's most people would not have thought that, but giving guys consistent minutes not only increases their confidence, but it also boosts their reps up. You need to get those shots in, and you need to get NBA experience in, and that really helps players at the NBA level. You can only practice so much and get better through that. You need to kind of test your game out at the NBA level. So we see what it does for players like Malachi Flynn. I think for starters, we need to do that with Paul Watson as well. So we see what happens when you give him good consistent minutes. He gets 30 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal, 1 block, and he also had 8 3-pointers. So I mean, you saw that last season as well. He's shown flashes of being this player. When he played against the Philadelphia 76ers in the bubble, he played 20 somewhat minutes. He got like 20 points, 22 points, something like that. So it was great to see Paul Watson get consistent minutes. I think that's something that needs to be done consistently throughout the season, not only this season, but next season. We have him under contract. So we need scoring off the bench. I feel like Paul Watson can definitely help us in the sense we saw what he's capable of. Now, I'm going to talk about whether he could be a starter with the Raptors or at the NBA level. Now, personally, just because of the way the Raptors roster is constructed, I don't see him being a starter with the Raptors. Now we have Gary Trent Jr., we have OG Anunoby as the small forward, so it'd be really hard to give him a starting position with those guys here. Now, I do think Paul Watson does have the potential to be a starter. I don't think he's going to be a starter on a really good team, but I can definitely see him being on a starter with like some of those teams that are lower ranked, 10th, 11th, 12th place teams that really need some help. And you know what? In the near future, I think the Raptors could do a good job of not only developing him, giving him consistent minutes. I could definitely see him being a starter on one of those teams. Now, Paul Watson, I want to talk a little bit about his game as well, what he's capable of doing. You see those three-point shots he's able to make, but he's also able to create his own shot. He's able to dribble. He's a decent defender. He's got good height. And you know what? He's able to attack the basket. He gets those layups. He gets those dunks in. And you know what? He can also shoot free throws as well, which is great. So Paul Watson's game, now, before everyone goes crazy on me, Paul Watson's game kind of reminds me of Paul George, just because of tools and what he's able to do. And you know what? He's similar height, I believe, as well. And Paul Watson is a good defensive player as well. So I feel like some of the tools we see with Paul George is definitely some of the similar things you see in Paul Watson as well. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be a Paul George's level. Let's slam the brakes here and let's not get too high on him based off of one game. He definitely has some good tools to work with in the NBA. I don't think he's ever going to realistically be an all-star, unfortunately, just because of his age. He is 26 years old. He's a little bit old now. He's not old as in old, but also old because of getting started in the NBA. We see a lot of guys get started in their early 20s. He's only had one full year of NBA experience, and he's 26 years old. I don't see realistically teams really having their team built, especially on the offensive role. I don't see the teams having him as a huge part of their offense. So unfortunately, that's where I see Paul Watson not being an all-star, and I just feel like it's too late for him to kind of get there. And I'll never say never, but that's just my opinion. You could disagree with me on this one, but his future in the NBA, I could definitely see Paul Watson having a career where he's averaging, anywhere from 12, 15 to 18 points per game, depending on what team he is. I see him being a key contributor off the bench. Now, whether or not that's what the Raptors is, we'll have to wait and see. But you know what? He did have himself a really nice game. And I want to give a shout out to two other guys as well, Yuta Watanabe and Freddie Gillespie as well. I was talking to one of my friends, and shout out to Ryan, because he mentioned this. He's like, you get a career high, that Oprah Winfrey meme. So it seemed like a lot of guys were getting their career high in points scored. And you know what? Those two players we have on two-way contracts just came up huge today, Yuta and Paul Watson. So I loved what I saw from Paul Watson. Now, obviously, we're not going to see this from him every single game, but you know what? I do think he has a bright future in the NBA. The Raptors could help develop him at the NBA level by giving him consistent minutes. That starts with giving him key role off the bench. We need some scoring off the bench. I think Paul George could be a nice piece off the bench next season. We need to move some players in order for him to get consistent minutes. So I definitely see him being a key player off the bench. Now, I don't know his ceiling at the NBA. It's hard to say it. As I mentioned, I realistically don't see him being an all-star. That's just me. But I do want to hear your thoughts on what you saw from Paul Watson that convinced you of what he may bring to the Raptors or some other teams in the NBA future in the next 2, 3, 4 years. So I want to hear your thoughts. So let me know in the comment section of what you think Paul Watson is capable of doing in the NBA in the future, and what do you think his ceiling may be. So I will be ending the video off here, guys. So if you're still with me, thank you so much for watching. Until next time.